Far Cry 5 comes out tomorrow. It's the latest in the series from Ubisoft, and I have put around 30 hours into the game, and I am going to answer all your pressing questions. Is it better than Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4, or is it just a reskin, a Far Cry 3.5, if you will? Do we finally have a villain or villains that are better than Far Cry 3's villain, Vaz? Is Montana a good location for an open world game? I'm going to answer all those questions in depth during my review for Far Cry 5, and I'm going to tell you guys why I feel that it is going to be hard for any other game to beat this game out for Game of the Year 2018. So stay tuned. What is going on, guys? Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another video, and it has been a wonderful last few days. I want to thank Ubisoft for sending over a review code for Far Cry 5 so I can put up a video, and I have been playing this game absolutely non-stop these past 2 or 3 days, which should tell you already what I think about Far Cry 5. So let's talk about it, right? I know a lot of people are wondering, well, what makes this different from Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4? And honestly, what separates it from those other two games and makes it into the upper echelon of games I've played in a long time is the story, the setting, and the characters. But first, let's talk about Far Cry in general. This is a Far Cry game. The mechanics you will see are very similar to the mechanics in Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4, but they're fine-tuned. The gunplay in this game is its best it's ever been in the series. The same thing with the driving. This feels like a true masterpiece of a game. There's really no comparison to the other ones. Some things are different and some things are the same. You'll be still liberating cult outposts and finding crazy characters to give you missions and stuff. And I'll go into more, in-depth details of what's different. But what separates it from the other games is, like I said, story, setting, and characters. So let's get into the setting, which is a character all of its own. This game takes place in Hope County, Montana, and it is a gorgeous open world. I'm playing on the Xbox One X, and when I booted this game up, I was just so impressed by the visual quality that Ubisoft went for in this game. I haven't had this much fun running around in an open world in forever. It's got gorgeous landscapes, really thick forest, farmlands that scatter across the region, and there are landmarks to visit that really are interesting to kind of scour and look at all the detail that went into the environment, like Ray Ray's pumpkin farm or the Hope County Jail, or maybe go for a dip in the sulfur ponds. All of these places are so awesome to explore, and during my 25 to 30 hour run through of the campaign, I honestly did not feel bored at a single time. There's so much to see and so much to do in Hope County, Montana. It looks so great. It makes me actually want to visit the game. So that is the setting. Montana was a great choice for this game. I think you guys are absolutely going to love exploring what Hope County, Montana has to offer. Now, the next thing is the story. You play as the deputy. He's voiceless, and it starts the game out with you are tasked to arrest Joseph Seed, and this thing starts everything out with with a bang, so to speak. The intro to Far Cry 5 is honestly one of the best intros I've played in quite some time. The first hour and a half really is just pulse pounding and gets you into that adrenaline mood. So, I mentioned the villains, and this kind of goes along with the story. Do we finally have a villain who's on par with Vaz? And I have to say, not only do we have a villain who's better than Vaz, we have 4 of them who are all fantastic. So the main leader, the father in this game, who is voiced to perfection by Greg Burke, is Joseph Seed, who has built this doomsday cult because God has spoken to him about the end of the world and has tasked him to shelter as many souls as possible. So he has formed this project at Eden's Gate cult. And your arrival there to arrest him has opened up the first seal in the apocalypse. And once the game gets going, you'll be in these 3 regions. There are 3 regions in the game, and each of them are controlled by one of Joseph Seed's lieutenants. So there's actually 4 villains in this game. You have the main villain and 3 side villains, and they're all fantastic. So you have John Seed, aka the Baptist. He runs the southwest section of the map called Holland Valley, and he's all about the idea of the power of yes. He's very masochistic. He likes inflicting pain. He likes to carve people's skin off and carve in what their sin is. He thinks your sin is wrath. But he's all about the idea of confessing your sins and atoning, and he's a pretty crazy character. Next up, we have Faith Seed, aka the Siren, who runs the southeast corner of the map at the Hebane River. Now, she is Joseph's voice, and she uses the drug Bliss to convert people and toy with with people's minds. It's pretty crazy, some of the hallucinations that you will experience and see when you're in that section of the map trying to take her out. And finally, up in the north, in the Whitetail Mountains, we have Jacob Seed, aka the Soldier. He's the older brother of Joseph. He's an ex-army ranger, very much equipped in the minds of in the task of intimidation and things of that nature. And he's tasked with building the militia for the project at Eden's Gate cult. His section is one of the best in the game. Each of those 3 different areas, each kind of have their own gameplay differentiation. So it's pretty cool to do one, do the other, and do that one, and see how different it is. But his tagline is, he has to call the herd. That's what he does. So he's very much the strong survive and the weak will perish. And honestly, after you're done with that section of the game, you won't see the song "Only You" the same ever again. So one of the differences between the Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4 and this game is how you actually explore the map and get intel and quests. If you remember, in Far Cry 3 and 4, you would climb towers and clear up the fog, and then that would mark locations on the map. This one is definitely much more realistic. So you can come across intel, which can be comes in many forms. Characters can just be talking to you, and they'll say, "Hey, somebody was seen in this area. We haven't seen him for a while. Why don't you go check it out?" And it'll be put on your map. They could tell you about a cult outpost or someone else that needs help, and it's all just kind of organically put into your map for you to kind of figure out. And there's also other ways, like you can find magazines and buildings that will alert you to locations or hunting grounds or silo structures and things of that nature. So it's completely different from Far Cry 3 and 4, and thank God it is. And in fact, they actually make fun of you, or make fun of it, during your first foray into the game. I had a nice little laugh about it. Now, each of the 3 areas, you have to build up resistance meter. Everything you do in those areas builds up this meter, and once it finally reaches the end, you can go on the offensive and attack Joseph, John, and Jacob. And once you have finally dealt with those 3, you are cleared to take on the Father. Well, how exactly do you build resistance meter? Well, anything that you do that goes against the cult basically builds it up. You can save civilians. Sometimes you'd be walking down the road and see a cult member about to execute a civilian, you can save them, liberate them, and get points. There'll be transport vans of prisoners that you can save, and liberate them as well. You can destroy cult property like silos or any sort of thing around there that is marked, which will give you points. You can liberate cult outposts. You can do story missions, and everything you do builds up this meter. And as you push against the project at Eden's Gate cult, they push back. So when you get the first level of resistance, they'll send out a capture party. When you get like the third or second level, they'll start sending planes after you all the time. So what you do does have a reflection in what's going on during the game. Now, one of the other things that was kind of changed in Far Cry was how you actually obtain perks. In previous Far Cries, you would get XP for everything you did. Story missions, kills, liberating outposts, but they completely done away with that. You no longer get XP. You do get money, and the money can be used to buy weapons and things like that, but they have this thing now called challenges. The challenges that you complete will give you perks, perk points, which you can then spend to get points. So some of the challenges when you're on the menu are pretty simple. I mean, they give you a ton of them. It's like get 10 kills with a pistol, 15 kills with an assault rifle, 10 kills with a sniper, all that different stuff. So many different challenges, and they're all pretty easy to complete, even hunting ones that they just kind of throw perk points at you. And another thing that I greatly adored was the prepper stashes. These are quests that you can go on that challenge your exploration and puzzle solving skills. So you'll see, because everybody here kind of believes in this apocalypse with that is coming, a lot of people take preparations, and you'll come across these a note which will give you a hint about how to access this location to get their goods. And once you figure it out, you'll be rewarded with 3 perk point magazines and a whole bunch of cash. And every time I saw one of those in the environment, you're damn right I went after it, because they are actually quite fun to do. Now, when you actually bring up the back button, when you press the back button on the controller, you actually get a fully realized 3D map. It's one of the better 3D maps I've actually used in a open world game. And since you can complete the campaign in a non-linear fashion, they actually have a journal to track your story missions, your side missions, your cult outposts, and your prepper stashes. So that's pretty cool. Like, if you feel like, you know what, I've had enough of Jacob, I'm going to go do some faith missions, you can just stop what you're doing and cross over. You don't have to do it in a linear way. You can do it however you choose to do it, which is fantastic in my opinion. Also, you can, it'll show you the roster when you're in the menu. And this is where you can pick your guns for hire or your fangs for hire. This is a pretty cool thing here. So as you do missions, some of the characters that you encounter will actually help you out, and you can call upon them. So at the beginning of the game, you can have one character with you, but as you upgrade and take down lieutenants, you can actually have 2. So you could have Nick Rye, who flies the plane and will bomb dive some enemies for you if you want to bring him along, or Herc with his trusty rocket launcher to take out vehicles, or if you want to have a pet, one of the fangs for hire. My favorite is Boomer, one of the first animals I saved. His special ability is he spots all the enemies that are nearby, so I greatly took advantage of his spotting ability to quietly take out all the enemies as I could. But then there's Peaches, the cougar, who will silently stalk his prey and take them out, or a gigantic bear named Cheeseburger, who just loves to take out the Peggies, which are the cultists. So you can actually, whatever playstyle you want to go with. If you want to have, if you're not very good at stealth, and you can have the characters that kind of specialize in stealth go along with you, you can do that. Or you have this one that is a sniper. It kind of either supports your playstyle or kind of maybe makes up the deficit for it. And of course, the perks. There are a ton of them to get. You can upgrade your character with more health, hold more ammo in your ammo bag. You can get better aiming, faster crouching speed, all that good stuff. Basically, all the things previous from Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4. Then you can also check your challenges to see which ones you have left to do and which ones you haven't done. And then you can actually customize your characters. So this is kind of a big one for Far Cry. You can be a male or a female, and everything is customizable. You got shirts, hats, pants, etc. All that stuff, all the different kind of colors. They all cost money, and money you get from basically completing missions and doing prepper sashes and things like that. But of course, what would Far Cry be without weapons? And they got a ton of them. Pistols, SMGs, shotguns, assault rifles, snipers, LMGs, bow and arrows, flamethrowers, rocket launchers. And you can customize every single one of them with pretty cool paint jobs. A whole bunch of assortment of scopes, silencers. Yeah, that's right. I went through most of the game with a silenced LMG. And you can also buy extended clips so it holds more ammo. But then, of course, it's an open world game. How do you get around? Vehicles, man. Got cars, trucks, ATVs, planes, helicopter, and they control better than in any other Far Cry game out there. And because it's a fully realized Montana area, hell, if you don't even want to go and do the missions, you don't have to, because they have fishing in the game, like a fully realized fishing mechanic. You know, I know people who've literally spent 4 hours or 5 hours fishing. I've only done it a couple times. It's pretty cool. But you can also hunt animals. There's bears, skunks, wolverines, bald eagles, all these things that you can hunt and kind of take on. And if you want to feel, you know what? I feel like taking on a little challenge. There's Clutch Nixon, who he's this legendary stuntman. God, when you come across one of his things, the music is just amazing there. And you usually do timed courses, traveling through like an obstacle course in an ATV or a plane or something. And I always took time out to actually play through that. You also have co-op in this game, although that's kind of one of my biggest disappointments. You can play the entire game in co-op, but the progress only saves for the host. And for those of you who like multiplayer, there's Far Cry Arcade. Now, Far Cry Arcade basically is a map editor that lets you play custom maps in solo, co-op, or PvP. There's supposed to be like featured maps from community and also from Ubisoft. I didn't get a lot of time to spend in that, but because I was trying to work my way through the campaign. But I did watch a couple videos, and it looks pretty expansive for what it offers. Now, the story is pretty amazing in my opinion in this. Each of the 3 areas, like I mentioned before, they're varied enough, and when you get your resistance meter up a certain point, you'll come face to face with Jacob, Faith, John, or Joseph. And as I was watching the story unfold, I was transfixed every time. The voice acting is absolutely superb in this game. The music is on point. Not only the ambient music, but even the licensed music as you go through the missions, which are all fun to play. None of them are boring. I wanted to do as many as I possibly could. I rarely skipped side missions. I thought all of them were so well done. But it was the story, the characters, that really set it apart for me. Finding out what exactly is going on with this cult. What is the father's reasoning? What is his ultimate plan? Why are John, Faith, and Jacob believe in him so much? And some of their missions, like their specific missions, are just amazing to go through. And then finally, when you get it to the end, and don't worry, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, I sat stunned, in stunned silence when the credits rolled. That's how emotionally affected I was by what I had just seen. So please, don't ruin it for yourself. Don't seek out spoilers. Try to remain spoiler-free on what happens in this game. But it blew me away in every way imaginable. So, because of that, originally I was going to give the game a 9, but because of that daring and bold ending, I bumped it up to a 0.5. So, I'm going to give Far Cry 5 a 9.5 because it's everything I wanted. from a Far Cry game and more. It blew away my expectations. Right? The gunplay, the best it's ever been. The driving, top notch. The characters in the game, from, ones you'll meet randomly that give you quests all the way up to the father, are all fantastic. And the story it tells, this dark story about a doomsday cult that really kind of delves into religious ideology and sin. Sin is a big thing in this game, a very big thing, which you don't really see a lot of games deal with. That stuff is incredible to me. Far Cry 5 is basically the complete package. So if you're a Far Cry fan, you need to get this game. If you're a lapsed Far Cry fan, you need to get this game. If you're just a fan of games, period, of great stories in an amazing open world with amazing gunplay, I know I use amazing a lot, but honestly, it's one of the superlatives I like to use, then you need to pick this game up. Maybe not now for $60 if you're strapped for cash, but this is a game that you absolutely 100% need to play. And with that, it's going to be tough for any game to pass it for Game of the Year. I truly enjoyed and loved Far Cry 5, which is why I'm going to give it a 9.5. Please play this game, revel in it, explore Montana, and just sit back and let the story and voice acting and narrative wash over you. Anyways, guys, that is the review. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. Consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Share it out so we can get more people to check out this Far Cry review. So share it out on social media. Hit the notification bell so you're always notified when I drop new content. And thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.